multinational fast food restaurants and evidence from China. Okay, this is a joint work with Wen Kuo, who is a PhD candidate from the Central University of Finance and Economics. Okay, so where I stayed for about 7 years since I got my PhD from University of Adelaide. So at the end of last year, I moved to China Agricultural University. So this work is still in progress and very preliminary. So any comments and suggestions are warmly welcome. Okay. So let me start to introduce this paper. Okay. So the outline of this paper is firstly I will introduce the motivation and the research question of our paper. Then I will move to the literature. Okay, some introduce you some related literature, and then I will talk about some facts related to obesity and proximity to the fast food restaurants in China. Okay, and then the data, and then I will talk about the empirical strategy about how we identify such effect between the two. Okay, and then I will discuss the regression results and some related welfare issue. Okay, lastly the conclusion. So the research question is very, I think it's very straightforward. Okay, we just want to uh, ask the question about can attracting these multinational fast food restaurants affect obesity in a developing country like China, and if so, how? Okay, and do the impacts differ between citizens with different characteristics? Usually, we are interested in the different effect between people with different education levels. I mean, the higher educated persons and the low educated persons. And we using the KFC and the McDonald's accession into China and to establish the cultural effect. Also, we are interested in their quantitative importance. Okay, we want to do some simple calculation to show their quantitative importance. Okay, so why we focus on China? Because
Are
the
there any
situation.
benefits from fast foods in China? Are there any benefits
Yes,
from Macca's and KFC entering China?
yes, there are other benefits, like maybe they provide you a new kind of food, maybe can increase your utility, right? You feel happy. Some this this benefit we cannot identify or we cannot measure in this paper. In this paper we focus on their opposite outcome. Okay, so
But a sort of a rounded approach would require to say at least something about the pros together with the cons of fast foods, surely.
okay. Okay, I will think about it. Okay, so
Okay.
let me continue. So because in China we know that the prevalence of obesity and overweight and other diet related chronic disease has increased rapidly in China. Now it's about zero point 0.2 billion people who are obese. Okay, that means within 7 people, one is obese. Okay, and on the other hand, we know that China has opened up their food markets in the late 1980s. Okay, in the 1980s, allowing, the foreign, uh, foreign food restaurants come to China, or we're allowing foreign food into China by imports. Okay, also by this, the FDI. Okay, China now is the largest country attracting this foreign direct investment. So from the policy point of view, we understanding this opposite outcome or its open policy and the welfare implications is a research issue of first order importance. Okay, Also, we know China is still a developing country. As the largest developing country, maybe the adverse effect of these attracting fast food restaurants on weight is likely to be different compared to other developed nations. So we want to ask such a question. Also, we know that in the whole developing world, we also face this grim situation or obesity, okay? So we study China case, but it will be relevant for assessing the welfare implications of open policy for other, I mean, less developed countries. Okay. Uh, Actually, the channel or the why the fast food restaurants can affect obesity, I think it's very straightforward because we know that this greater openness to FDI or trade in foods in developing world can affect the nutrition transition, okay, where diets can become richer in animal fats, sugars, and processed foods, and hence obesity and some cardiovascular diseases can come, okay. Also, this proximity to fast food restaurant could lower the monetary and the non-monetary cost or assessing unhealthy and obesity-prone food through channels in lower prices, norms, and tests, because you find it's convenient to buy this kind of food very, I mean, easily if from, I mean, this because the monetary and non-monetary costs decrease because of the openness. Okay. So to preview what we are finding, okay, what do? We examine the impact or proximity to this KFC and McDonald's or people obesity using China Health and Nutrition Survey. We call it the CHNS. This survey, okay. We find a very robust and very significant evidence that within 10 kilometers, I will explain to you why we choose these 10 kilometers, okay. We find a robust evidence that within 10 kilometers, a one standard deviation more fast food store increase experienced a higher likelihood. How large is about 10.2 percentage points. Okay, 10.2 percentage points. And later, I will show you that when we calculate the monetary welfare, we will find that this, I mean, increase in the fast food stores will decrease the monetary welfare by, I mean, 0.2 percentage, okay?
Can I ask a question here?
To the opposite. Sorry?
Excuse me? So, is it really cheap to eat in McDonald's, KFC in China? Because my impression is that it's not really cheap.
Yes, it's not very cheap, but you will find that KFC in China is very popular, okay? It is not cheap, but you will find every time you went to KFC or McDonald's, you will find, I mean, lots of people there waiting for their order. I will show you a picture later, okay?
So, Faqin, a related question. So, like if you were looking at developed countries, the socioeconomic gradient of obesity is such that the poor are the ones who are obese, right? But since in China, it's not cheap, so do we expect the socioeconomic gradient to be different? Are the rich going to be more obese because of it?
Yeah, I mean, it could be the case. Although we show that the channels like some, I mean, the lower monetary cost or non-monetary cost. Maybe cheaper issue is some monetary cost. Sometimes you find it's easier to buy this fast food. Maybe some non-monetary cost can have such effect on these issues.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe you could file this in terms of fast food in China has a high income elasticity as opposed to foods in developed countries, and rapid growth in incomes in China have accounted for much of this high demand for KFC and Macca's in China, rather than a lower cost, because as pointed out, probably that's not such a strong arm of your argument.
Yes. Yes, this is a good comment. Actually, in later, we tried to find whether there is some heterogeneous effect between rich groups and poor groups to to, um, to 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 look into the heterogeneity effect. Okay.
Excuse me, Faqin, just comment on this. I think KFC or McDonald's used to be relatively expensive in China, but not anymore, right?
Yes, yes.
It's still much cheaper than formal dining in China, and in bigger cities, it's really not so expensive.
Yeah, maybe it's the nominal price may be not very cheap, but in the urban area or in the city, most people can afford it, and maybe the real price is lower compared to maybe other developing countries or other developed countries. But I didn't do the comparison about this price issue. Okay. So we conduct several other robustness checks and plausible tests. I will show you later. Okay. So we find that the effect, also we find some heterogeneous effect. We find that this effect of fast food on overweight probability is significantly higher for less educated people. That means if their education is less than, 9 years old, and this effect will be much higher for them. So we conduct some welfare analysis to show that consider these people with above compulsory level education and those with compulsory level education or below, ignoring the different effects on obesity could result in an underestimation of welfare disparity. It means monetary welfare disparity by 7%. Okay, if the number of fast food restaurants increase by 7, is 10 standard deviation increase. And also we find that the effect is also larger for men. So this is very different for other studies. Most of the studies, they find that this effect is greater for women. But in China, we find that such effect is, larger for men. Okay. But however, we find no systematic different effect between rural and urban area. And we find that the high income and the low income, households, in our regression, we find no difference between them, okay? Even the students and adults, we find no difference between them.
Can I just ask one qualifying question about the extent of information that's available at the point of purchase? So in many jurisdictions, the energy density of food in chain stores is available at the point of purchase. And so people are making informed choices about this. Whether you become obese or not is, I think, less relevant when you're fully informed of what the energy density of the product that you're purchasing is. In China, is that information available at the point of purchase?
It means quantity information, you mean?
I mean that if I walk into a store,
Yes.
the calorie content of the food I'm about to purchase is freely available to me, and so I might choose to be obese because I like this fatty food, but I'm not making an uninformed choice. And I distinguish between those two things about I can choose to have energy dense food if I'm informed at the point of purchase versus whether I'm not. And that relates to that comment that you've made about welfare analysis.
Oh, yes, I agree. But yes, I totally agree your comment. But we do not have such detailed information about This, yes, but I agree that it's totally true. Yes. Okay, so let me talk about this literature. Okay, so first we know that there is a growing literature that examines the impact of presence of unhealthy food or obesity. Okay, the three very related papers to us is that means the Greentas paper 2020, this year's GIE paper, but they focus on the importing unhealthy food in Mexico. Okay, and Mexico import this unhealthy food from United States after they opened their food market, and they study the impact on the Mexican women's obesity issue. Okay, they focus on the women. And the second paper, Carrier's paper, is studying the in the United States, okay, the access to the fast food stores or restaurants, how they affect the students and the pregnant women's obesity, okay. And the third paper is also focusing on China, okay, focusing on China, but they also using the China Health CHNS data, but they their measure about this access to fast food restaurant is whether the community has fast food restaurant or not. Okay, so this is a dummy variable. So this dummy variable, they have some problem that it may capture some differences between rural and urban, because usually in urban communities they have a fast food store, but usually in rural areas maybe we do not have such a fast food store near your, I mean, your village. Okay. So this is the I mean the mostly related three papers, but our difference with them is we focus on this multinational. I mean, fast food restaurant that actually is FDI, okay, not trade, and we also focus on developing country. We study developing country about this access to multinational fast food restaurants on obesity, okay, and we use this fast food density, not a simple dummy variable. Secondly, we add to the work on the economic determinants of obesity, okay, and dietary habits. There are some papers studying this issue. The first three papers actually is some review paper. Okay, they review some, I mean, various factors affecting the obesity. Okay, and the Cotton's 2016 paper, they studied the access to the, I mean, supermarkets, okay, and some supermarkets and retailers, how this affects the obesity, okay. As Anderson's 2019 paper, actually, they studied some behavior, some driving behavior, how driving behavior affect your obesity using Beijing's lottery to get the license. To get the license, I mean, if you win the lottery, you can buy a car. If not, you cannot. You cannot buy the car. So they focus on this. I mean, some experiment to find that who win the lottery and find that these people are driving more and exercise less. So this will affect their obesity. Certainly, our paper contributes to the recent, I mean, growing literature about globalization and health. There are many papers to talk about this. Okay, how I mean, something like exports or imports or some intermediate imports, how this globalization, okay, affect health. So more broadly, our paper contributes to the literature on FDI effects. So there are huge literature to talk about this spillover effect about FDI, but most of the literature, they are interested in the, I mean, the productivity spillover effect, okay? But we are studying some health effect. Because we care about this income inequality between, I mean, people with different levels of education. So it's related to some globalization and income inequality, this line of literature. So if you're interested, Pavnik, they have some review about this issue between globalization and income inequality. Okay, so let me show you some facts, okay, about this US fast food restaurant in China, okay. So in the fact one I want to show you is that the US fast food in China actually is very popular and the expansion is very fast, okay. So let me talk about the expansion first. Actually, for McDonald's, for example, after they entered into the mainland China in the early 1990s. Okay, every year actually about 200 to 300 McDonald's outlets open up in China every year after they entering into mainland China in early 1990s. KFC first entered into China in 1987. In 1987, okay. In 1987, they opened their first store in Beijing. And then in 1999, it had 100. In 1997, it had 100. In 1999, it increased to 320. Okay. Now, as of 2019, there were nearly 6,000 KFC restaurants or stores. Okay. And this graph, you can see this graph. This graph shows you that there, the number of is KFC stores increases in China from, since their entry into the mainland China. Okay. So the increase is very fast.
I just have a quick question, Faqin. So when did McDonald's first enter China? Because I know in the case of Vietnam that McDonald's was very late and KFC was much earlier, so decades earlier. So in the case of China, when did McDonald's first enter?
McDonald's entered in China in the early 1990s, maybe 1991. Yeah.
I see. Still very early.
So, yeah, it's still very early. But the KFC is 1987. Yeah, it's earlier than McDonald's. Okay. So this graph, this picture shows you that actually this KFC or McDonald's is very popular in China. Okay, I just take a picture in a McDonald's store. Usually, every time when you enter this, enter the McDonald's or KFC, you will find that there are many people there waiting for their order. Okay, this is very popular. And according to some journalists, okay, from some newspapers to interview some customers, they respond that some people know that it's not maybe nutritious, okay, and they don't have the variety that a Chinese restaurant would have, but we like it. They respond. Some some customers respond, it's convenient, okay, it tastes good. Okay, I don't care whether it is healthy or not, because it's convenient, okay, and it tastes good. Maybe it's still, expensive or a little expensive, but this is not monetary cost, okay. I just conveniently can buy this kind of food, and it tastes different with Chinese food, okay. So they like it, okay.
So Faqin, a related question. So in India, for example, there are multiple substitutes available for these outlets, right? So even if you might not have KFC in the neighborhood, you might have other local burger joints, right? What's the situation in China like? And also, so what kind of food are they displacing, right? What is the food being pushed out of the diet?
Yes, there are some other, brands, local brands. It's maybe can substitute McDonald's, KFC, but I think in China, this KFC and McDonald's is very, they can offer very special kind of food, which is different from local food. It's different, tastes differently. Okay, so it cannot be 100%. Substitutable. Okay, so they are very popular in China. There are some other brands which is similar, but according to my own experience, because I eat some kind of other local fast food restaurant, but it tastes very differently. Okay. So this is why McDonald's and KFC are very popular in China, because they taste differently and good.
Okay. Faqin, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so in addition to the figure, you show that the revenue of the KFC increased a lot over the past 30 years. Can you share also the market share? Because here the revenue is quite not very informative because the inflation and also the income grows a lot over the past 30 years. But what about market share? That is also related to the Yanri's questions, whether actually consumers switch from the this fast food to the local Chinese. There are also some local Chinese fast food, not in the conventional way of fast, but actually some noodles and the rice noodles could also be very fast, even though it is a traditional Chinese food. So that means, okay, I know there are some very quite a decent brand of this Chinese food also just increased a lot. So can you share the market share and give us more information about this, how market has changed?
Okay, I see. I get your point. Market share. Yes, but here I didn't find this market share graph. Maybe later I will find such information and show you later. Okay.
Yeah, I think the whole scale of the food market increased a lot in China. Many young generations and many people living in big cities, they cannot cook by themselves because they're too busy, or then just they just go to the restaurant. I think that the whole industry increased. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Okay. I will try my best to find this market share. Okay, about for this KFC and McDonald's.
And I think on top of that, can I just add one thing?
Yes.
I think it's not just the market share, but I think you want to focus on similar, fast food restaurant that has similar calorie contents. Because you seem to blame McDonald's and KFC, but do you have other restaurants that have similar calorie contents that might lead to obesity as well? And then you want to look at the whole market together, like Sean said, what's the market share that McDonald's and KFC really account for this, this fast food market that's considered as the culprit of obesity.
Okay.
So for example, Pizza Hut.
Yeah. And also you have Burger King, right? I don't see a Burger King here. I did see Burger King everywhere in Beijing.
Yeah. Pizza Hut is actually also a U.S. I mean, it's a U.S. fast food restaurant, but because we cannot get very detailed information about for this Pizza Hut, so we didn't include it either. But yes, I agree. This is very important because people can choose between different fast food restaurants. Okay. U.S. or local ones. Okay, the Burger King maybe is a local brand. So we will take care of this issue later when we continue to revise the paper. Okay. So so the fact too, we find that there was a large increase. Okay, in the likelihood of experiencing overweight for Chinese. So according to this, CHNS data. Okay. This data, we choose 10 waves, okay, 10 waves. We almost, choose the whole data set we can, we can get, okay, we can obtain. So from 1989 to 2015, so you can see that this figure increased very fast. In the 1989, that means only 8% people are, overweight, that, or we say that they have a BMI is over 25, but to 2015, it's nearly, 35%, right? So the increase is very fast. It increases very fast. So this is from time series that we can see that we know that the time series that this U.S. fast food restaurant in China increased very fast. Also, we can this overweight increase very fast over time. Number three fact, third fact is to show you that cross-sectionally, That means this fast food restaurants density closely linked to overweight rate. I mean, both time series and cross regions. So this map show you that if you find a place where they have very high, I mean, this fast food restaurants density, that means their obesity ratio, the opposite ratio is also higher. Okay, this is about map of China. For example, this Guangdong province. This I mean dark red area means they have very higher this fast food restaurant density. That means the number of fast food restaurants per maybe 10,000 people. Okay, it's very, but this here this shows that this I mean the opposite ratio. Okay. So basically, we can find that the cross region or cross section, these two variables are also closely linked to each other. Okay, and then also in our data at the commodity level, okay, at the commodity level, we this horizontal line we show that this U.S. fast food restaurant within 10 kilometers, I mean around a commodity. Okay, and this vertical line is about the overweight share at the commodity level. You can see these two also, I mean, positively correlated with each other. This is in our CHNS data. Okay. And the fact 4 we want to show is that with the increase of, I mean, the fast food restaurants, lower educated people experienced a larger increase in overweight rates compared to high educated people. So you can see that the column 1 is high educated and the column 3 is low educated. And so you can see that this gap for this low educated people, this gap increases much faster than high educated people. Okay. Okay, so then we will talk about this our data. Data is I already introduced to you is the China Health and Nutrition Survey data. So we choose all the available 10 waves data. So this is a multi-stage, okay, multi-stage random cluster process to draw samples in 52 prefectures or cities in 11 Chinese provinces. That vary substantially in geography and the degrees of economic development. Let me show you the graph first. Show you the map first. So this is a colored area is the survey. Okay, the colored area is the survey covered in the regions. Okay, you can see from the north, Heilongjiang province to the south, maybe Guangxi province. We also have some east, like Liaoning, Shandong, Jiangsu province, and west, like Guizhou province. We have a very rich area like Shanghai, Beijing, okay, Jiangsu province. This is the rich area, but we have some very poor area like Guizhou. Guizhou is very poor. We also have some, I mean, in the middle area like Henan, Hubei, Hunan province. So their development level is between, I mean, Shanghai and Guizhou is in the middle, okay? And the quality of the CHNS dataset is well recognized, okay? And the dataset has been widely used in the health literature, okay? And so the quality, I mean, is very well recognized by the, I mean, by the academic area, okay? Most of these people, most of these papers, they publish in the top journals, okay? They use this CHNS data, okay? Okay. So including our own paper, because we previously studied some trade liberalization, how trade liberalization affect the workers, I mean, health. We also use this data. So this the recent our recent GIE paper. Okay. So we basically choose people from 4 years to 60 years old. We including students, okay, including students and adult workers, okay. The reason is maybe not true, but here we just want to choose this, I mean, students and adult people. The reason is that maybe the baby is under 3 years old, cannot eat KFC and McDonald's fast food. Yes, they cannot eat it independently, right? So because they are very, very young. While the older people, maybe they have weak ability to chew and digest fast food. And also for older people, maybe the opposite issue is very complex because they have some maybe other diseases or something, other factors we cannot identify. So we choose 4 years old to 16 years old people. Okay, so our main measure of overweight is a binary variable that takes the value of 1 if an individual has a BMI index over 25 and otherwise 0, okay? And we construct our commodity level proximity to fast food restaurants in 3 steps. So the first step, we fix the address of the participant in the survey at the commodity level. It's a commodity level. Actually, in China, we have in the urban area, usually the district level, and in the rural area, it's usually the village level. Okay, so we fix the address at the commodity level within a county or a city in the map of China by using the geographical coding information. We use the GRS, I mean this software. So let me show you this CHNS data. Sorry, this is the Chinese, okay, it's the China, but I just want to show you that just like, for example, like Jiangsu province, for example, if this, I mean, community is in the urban area, usually it has some, I mean, districts, okay, they tell you where the district, okay, like here is Beita Jiedao, the district is, we call it Beita Jiedao. But if in the countryside, in the rural area, they will tell you which countryside it will locate, okay. Here, for example, it's a Xingfu Chun, it means the happy countryside, okay. So basically we have urban area and a rural area, okay, and then we, from there, this Chinese name, we can fix the address, okay, in the map of China. And the second, we use Python, okay, to exploit a very detailed, I mean, geographical location about this McDonald's and KFC, their outlets, okay, by searching out, because in their official website and China official website, they will tell you in I mean, outlets in which province, which city. I mean, very detailed information. We can get their latitude and longitude, okay. So third, matching is performed using time this varying information or latitude and longitude for this KFC and McDonald's and the, I mean, community address. So let me show you an example. Okay, here is a for Shenyang province. Okay, Shenyang city. Sorry, it's a Liaoning province, Shenyang. So this
excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes. Why? I mean, why the bottom as index? You need to be turn a binary variable. Why cannot just use as a continuous variable?
Yes, I can use the continuous variable, but because we just want to show that overweight, because BMI maybe BMI 20 is not overweight, right? But if you over 25 is overweight. Here we are interested in the overweight issue. Okay, so we use this binary variable as our benchmark, but I will show you the results using the continuous BMI index as the, I mean, dependent variable. So here I give the example about our, I mean, matching information. Okay, so this I mean, this blue area. So this area is the suburbs in the Shenyang, okay? And the light green area is the city center of the Shenyang city. Shenyang is the capital city of Liaoning province in the northeast of China, okay? So the red pentagram, this red pentagram, okay, represents the location of Liaoning provincial government organs, okay? This is red pentagram, okay? And the green dot, this green dot represents the McDonald's, okay? These green ones. And this yellow dot represents the KFCs, okay? Represents KFCs. And the red flag, this is represents the location of the CHN survey community, one community at the Shenyang city, okay? Community, the Shenyang city. Okay, so so our I mean empirical specification or specification is very very simple. So the left-hand side variable is the individual overweight a dummy variable, binary variable, whether the BMI index is over 25, okay, it's equals 1, otherwise it's 0. And here is the lagged 1 year lagged fast food restaurants within 10 kilometers. I mean the number, the log number. Okay, the log number. And here XIT is some individual level controls. Individual controls, their age, education, okay, their gender, and their family income, because we have students, the household family income, and their behavior, drinking behavior or smoking behavior, something related variables like that. Okay, we also control this time varying county and city fixed effects, time varying county level or prefecture level fixed effects. This can control something like a regional income or GDP, some population, something like that. Okay, urbanization, such variables. We also control the commodity fixed effects because this is at the commodity level. Okay, so we control the commodity fixed effect
So just a quick question of clarification. The county, is that like a village, or is that what sort of level of aggregation is that? Is that you're saying it's regional or is it provincial? I mean, is it what's the level of aggregation?
County is is a lower region unit under province. Okay, usually we have province and then city and then county. And
so maybe village. like a district.
Like a district.
Like district, yeah.
Okay. One quick question about this specification. So, I mean, comparing it with, say, other countries, or say in the US, these fast food restaurants will target communities which have population which are more reliant on fast food, right? Like, so the thing is, they target low socioeconomic areas to begin with. Even within counties, they would go into neighborhoods that have, say, a higher proportion of Black population, right? So if the restaurants themselves are responding to the population of consumers, then you have a reverse causation problem as well, right? So how do we account for that?
You mean some reverse causality issue, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's possible, but we want to argue that because this fast food density is at the community level, right? And this is it's overweight is at the individual level, okay? Individual level. So what we want to argue is that individual level, this overweight rate may they may have some reverse causality, but I'm thinking that it will be much smaller about this. If this is a community level, maybe they have much more this reverse causality issue. At the individual levels, maybe yes, we agree to have, but it will.
Excuse me. Sorry, a question. Do you have individual income?
Yes, yes, I will control the income, family income.
Sorry, I have a quick question. In continuation to what Tushar asked. So what Tushar was talking about was endogeneity coming from the supply side.
Yes.
But even from the demand side, it's very much possible that people lease or buy properties that are close to, you know, these fast food restaurants, and that is self-selecting into neighborhoods that have these fast food restaurants. And that's an endogeneity issue that is at individual level. That's not at county level. That is endogeneity at YIT level.
Yes, it's possible, but in China, usually people buy a house or buy a property. Usually, according to my experience in China, people usually buy a house maybe in consideration or near school, but usually they do not consider to near a restaurant.
Okay. Could it be just renting place, like they work in this place, so they rent there? It doesn't mean that they have to buy a house there.
I mean, I haven't seen a hedonic study that's ever, you know, looked at that. Like school district, the school district analogy seems pretty plausible. In a very developed food culture like we're considering here, you know, you know, we're relying on some story ultimately in this element to that. I don't see that demand side being a problem.
Yes, yes, I agree. And also Simon's comment is like this, maybe you work in the, maybe this restaurant is near your workplace and you can buy it. But here, actually, this CHNS is not, I mean, is not related to your work unit, but is your home, right?
So that address that you mentioned is the address for this household registration according to a hukou, or it's the current residence? What's the address that you have?
It's your current residential.
Right. So that's residence, right?
Yeah, residence. Yes.
So where you live at the moment. So it could be different from the house that you own.
Yes. Yes. But we didn't have we didn't have other detailed information about this. Okay, so we can just rely on this information to do this analysis. Okay.
I think there's just one other concern that maybe your specification can't address. And I've heard that some of these international food chains set up in areas where there's, I guess, lower levels or weaker administration, so they're able to negotiate with those local level administrations. So, so that's another, I think, a source of endogeneity, perhaps. And if those, you know, lower levels of, you know, local governance is correlated with, you know, the health of the population, then that's an issue as well. So, but I guess, you know, you have county fixed effects that are changing over time. But if that's happening at a lower level of aggregation, then there's an issue.
Okay, thank you for this suggestion.
But the community is already very low, right? How large is the community? Because your fixed effects at the community level.
Yeah.
It's at county level, right?
Community maybe like 300 people.
300 people only in the community.
300,000.
Because in this survey 300, but usually maybe the real number may be much higher than 300.
I think there could be a big difference between rural and urban, right? So
yeah, there's a difference.
In rural area, as you said, it's just a village, but in urban area is a community. But the community in very dense cities in China could be tens of thousands. Yeah.
Yes. Their actual number of people may be much higher, but in the survey we just about maybe 300, something like that.
You might want to think about how you can write this equation a bit more simply. You've got three subscripts going on here. You've got an I a T and a C, but on this food variable here, we don't see an I subscript, we see a C. I understand what you mean by that, but I think if you interact that with an indicator variable that says I in C, it's 1, I not in C, it's 0, something like that, to indicate the three-dimensionality of the problem.
Okay,
it's a bit jarring just to see these two subscripts, whereas we've got three subscripts running around here. Yes. You understand my point?
Yeah, yes, I get your point. Yeah, I get your point. This here, I is the individual, C is at the community, and this P actually, P is the prefecture, okay, prefecture or county. Okay, because in the survey, some I mean the community is in a prefecture, some community is in a county. So this is about the county and county or prefecture. Okay, so I can, this I is in C, C is
well,
in
maybe
P. Yeah, I can use three. I mean, three subscripts. Yeah.
Maybe you need another data variable for the province too, provincial.
Oh, because yeah, provincial is very bigger, bigger unit. So since we already control this small unit fixed effects.
Well, it's I within that province too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I can ask you one more question about identification. Here it seems to me you control for the community fixed effect. Then the main variation you want to make use of is just the within community. Is that right? Yes. Within community between different access or distance to the closest KFC or McDonald's. Is that right? Yeah, within the community variation.
Yeah. We control the I mean this community fixed effect, but we then we control the within community. Different people they have different I mean distance to the fast food restaurants.
So then, if the community is very small, okay, so then on average, how many fast food restaurants do you have in the data in each community? I think in some village, absolutely, in some village it could be 0, right?
Yeah, sure.
And in some could be only 1 if the district is very small, if the community is very small. But, so then I'm wondering where, okay, many of the variation, the source of the variation come from. It could come from very, very big cities in your survey only in that case. Because some small cities are not so many KFC and McDonald's.
Yes, I get your point. Maybe we can later show some robust results to, I mean, if we cut this very, I mean, bigger cities, right?
Yeah, you can show some distribution about this restaurant within the community and to say where is the variation from.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Do you a quick question? Do you have information on or individuals when they started living at a place in their specific address? Do you have information on that?
Unfortunately, we do not have such information. We do not have such information because because it's repeated cross-section data. Repeated cross-section. Some individuals may repeat it more than twice. Okay. So later we try our best to control this individual fixed effect to show their.
No, my thought was that if you do have some measure of when individuals started living at a place, because you already know when a KFC or a McDonald's opens up in a particular county, you can kind of do a robustness check by excluding those individuals that came after these things open. That's a kind of a robustness where you can show that results hold even after excluding those individuals that are potentially giving you endogenous results. But if you don't have that, then
I get your point. If we have such information, it will be very great. Yes.
Following on that, is a really small point. You could also do a heterogeneity by age And if people are really, really young, what Girish is saying that, the chances that they were born here are much, much higher. So you should see a much higher impact on the younger population in that case.
Yeah. I will show the heterogeneity effects later. Okay.
Oh.
So let me show you the baseline regression results. Okay. So when we the column one, we just control this fast food restaurants and the city year fixed effect. This city year including county year and or prefecture year fixed effects. Because some participant is within a county, some participant within a city. So this is the county or city year fixed effect. So when we just control this our main causal variable, you find this coefficient is very significant and 0.04. Okay, when we add this individual control variables, you will find that this number do not change very much. Okay, when we still add maybe family income and add their their behavior, like smoking behavior and drinking behavior, you always find that this number do not change very much. It's near 0.06. Okay, and other control variables are also very consistent with our with our expectation, like for example smoking. If smoking a lot, maybe you are not likely to get obese, right? And drinking, if you drink a lot of alcohol, you can become more likely to become obese, something like that.
What does disease mean?
A disease means that means is if you have some cardiovascular disease before, is a history variable. If you
isn't that the reverse causality?
Sorry, I had my hand up. I was going to question that as well, because disease is an outcome variable.
Yeah.
That obesity causes. And so by controlling for it, you're taking away a lot of stuff that you shouldn't take away. That seems very strange to me that you're controlling for that.
You mean these variables?
Yeah.
Or this
disease? This one.
Oh,
disease. Sorry, you can't see my arrow, of course. Sorry. Yeah, disease. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I also just jump in there as well and just go back to your age?
Yes.
Lost you, Alison.
You're muted, Alison.
Yeah, I seem to be coming in and out. Sorry, I was just jumping in there on the age variable as well. I just wonder if there's another way that you could perhaps enter it. I'm thinking of just taking out some of that age effects by perhaps just using the residual on that as well, because it would seem to me that as time goes on, you pick up some habits as well. You get addicted to fast foods, so you might be able to.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to say that in the first 4 columns, actually this coefficient of our main causal variable is it's very stable. Okay, very stable. And when we control this commutative fixed effect, because when we control this commutative fixed effect, this urban or rural area disappears because they are multicollinear with each other. So when we control this commutative fixed effect, you will find this result increases a lot from 0.06 to 0.15, right? So it's increased a lot because this variable is at the commutative level. So we need to control this commutative fixed effect to decrease or to elevate this omitted variable bias. So if we take this number as our baseline, this is 0.14, 0.147, right? This number actually, when we do simple calculation, you will find that this one standard deviation increase in the number of US fast food restaurants within 10 kilometers at this community level would raise the probability of experiencing this overweight, okay, by about 10.2 percentage points. Okay.
But what governs your choice of the 10-kilometer radius that I've missed?
Sorry?
What governs your choice of the 10-kilometer radius? Did I miss something?
Why?
At the beginning of your talk, you said there was an intuitive reason for it, but maybe I've missed it.
Yeah. I will answer this question later. Okay, I will show you the rather later why we choose this 10 kilometers. Okay.
Faqin, I'm quite surprised to see the result actually gets bigger when you control for community fixed effect.
Yes.
Because I would imagine, just like Tusha and many others has pointed out, these fast food restaurants, they pick their locations for some reason. They've done market analysis. They will find out who are more likely to eat fast food, who have a high demand for fast food. And those characteristics is at the community level. And then when you didn't control for those community fixed effect, the results are actually much smaller.
Yes.
And so that suggests that without the community fixed effect, you kind of underestimate it. But I would expect the opposite. But here, what you show is it's something that I totally unexpect. Do you have a good explanation why that the community fixed effect actually boosts up the estimates?
What I can argue is that without control this, community fixed effect. Actually, as you just said, the effect actually to underestimate. Okay, underestimate.
So all that's hidden in that correlation matrix, isn't it? Of what's going on. That's what's, so isn't that all that's happening here, that you could unpack that by getting those correlations to see what's happened?
We try our best to find this causal variable, but yes, here maybe there are some endogeneity issue or some other factors we do not control, right? Later we will think about how to find some better methods to identify this their causal effect. We're interested in their causal effect, but if you say that maybe there are some factors or there are still some endogeneity issue here, but at least it will show you this positive correlation. Okay.
Can I just add, just in the interest of time, if we can just allow the speaker to continue on. We only got 10 minutes and I see that he's got a number of slides to go. So please continue, Faqin.
Okay, let me continue. So this is this is a quantitative significance. Okay, alternatively we can say that the first quantile and the third quantile, actually the effect is also like 10.2. Okay, so let me quickly to show you the robustness check. Okay, so we also tried the fast food within 5 kilometers and 15 kilometers. Okay, we can see that the results are also very significant, but the significance level is less than the 10 kilometers. When we put these three together, we can only find this fast food restaurant at 10 kilometers is significant, but the other two lose significance. This is why we choose 10 kilometers as our baseline. Okay. Also, because in our baseline regression, we use this KFC and McDonald's together, and when we divided KFC and McDonald's, we can see that the effect is still there. Also, we use alternative measures or opposite. Okay, here we use the continuous variable. Someone previously asked such question. Okay, we use the BMI index indirectly. We can see that we can still find this positive coefficient. Okay, because we use a linear probability model for this overweight dummy variable. Then we try to use a property and the logic equation. We find that the results are still there. Okay. So then we additional, I mean, we want to try to control additional controls. Okay, because here we try to control with within 10 kilometers the retailers. Okay, I mean the supermarkets. Okay, U.S. supermarkets like the Carrefour, something like that. I mean the multinational retailers. Okay, when we control these retailers, we find these results are still there and even become great. Okay, and we also control some individual, like for pregnant women, we find do not change our results. We also control if you have some exercise behavior, or you're always doing exercise. Okay, we will do not change this coefficient. Okay, but exercise itself will negatively affect this overweight dummy. It's very straightforward, right? And we also want to choose even more stringent fixed effects, like a household fixed effects, and even we control some individual fixed, because we know that some individuals, they are interviewed in the survey more than twice. So we try to use this more stringent fixed effect to see whether the results are still exist or not. So you can see that when we control this individual fixed effects, we have this magic number is still very, I mean, close to our previous first 4 columns result in our baseline table 3 is about 0.06, right? And also the significance levels decrease to 10%, but it's still significant. Okay, as the number is very closely, very close to our former result. Okay, and so because everybody knows that the rural area and urban area, different communities or villages, they have different observations in the survey. So we use some weighted regression, okay, weighted regression to control this. I mean, there's a different observation issue, but we still, the general information, we find that this weighted regression do not change our result, okay? And then we do some placebo tests. When we use infants, because we choose people over 4 years old and 16 years old. If we want to study the infants, that means 0 to 3 years old, we find that we have no such effect. And for these older people, it's positive, but insignificant, right? And we use Starbucks, okay? Starbucks, this is coffee stores to in replace all these fast food restaurants within 10 kilometers. We do not find a significant effect. And we find that the future outlets actually do not affect today's, people's overrated probability. Okay, so lastly, we show the heterogeneous effect. The heterogeneous effect, we will find more educated people. Such effect will be smaller. And for men, this effect will be, for women, this effect will be smaller. So this is very different from other studies like Michigan and like United States. They all find that the result or fast food restaurants or unhealthy food on women, the effect will be larger or greater. But in China, for men, it's larger, okay? And for urban and income students, we do not find there significant, heterogeneous effect, okay? Okay, so because, so let me spend a few minutes to talk about a simple back-available calculation about this welfare. Because opposites are positively linked to illness, especially this chronic and metabolic disease. So the proximity to US fast food restaurants will have different influence on people with different levels of education, because we're usually interested in skilled labor and unskilled labor issue. Okay, so in the data, we will find that overweight leads to a 3 3.2 higher chance to get such kind of disease, okay? So we do some simple calculation by using some real income. This is or we call it the indirect utility equation. So this is indirect utility. This is your income. This is the price. This is the rho is that means the probability to get the yearnings. This T is your expenditure if you get some yearnings. Okay. This theta is a different education level. So we do some simple calculation to do some simple derivation to find this result. So given our baseline coefficient is around 0.147, okay? Hence, one standard deviation increase in the number of fast food restaurants, okay, increases the yearness by this number, okay, 0.33%. So consider the average income and the probability of getting the yearness and the medical cost, okay, given yearness. So we can calculate that the welfare I introduced at the beginning of the talk. One standard deviation increase in the number of fast food restaurants will need this monetary welfare or the indirect utility by 0.2, okay, due to this opposite. Okay, but the total welfare actually is uncertain because people have more variety to consume and the complex price, in fact, total welfare is uncertain. But when we consider this different effect between these different levels of education, actually we can use this probability, or getting yearnings and income for the different types of individuals. Okay, so this is our last table to talk about this welfare calculation. So for our education level, actually an average reduction of the welfare due to obesity is about 1.8%. That means for 10 standard deviation increase, one standard deviation is 0.18. 10 standard deviation is 1.8%. But for the low educated people, it's much larger, it's 8.4. Okay, and for the higher educated, people, the effect will be much smaller compared to the low educated. It's just 1.7. Okay, so the welfare disparity is about the difference between the two is 16.7. Okay, so this is a simple, back of envelope calculation about this welfare. Okay, so lastly, conclusion. So our findings suggest that the people living in communities or villages with more exposure to KFC or McDonald's experienced a higher likelihood of suffering from overweight and a larger adverse opposite effect on people with lower education, okay, on men than women. However, we find no discernible effect between rural and urban high income and low income students and adults. Okay, and the welfare disparity between high and low educated people become much larger once these opposite factors are taken into consideration. So our study contributes to the growing literature on globalization and obesity. A larger adverse opposite effect on people with lower education on men than women. So finally, our paper also contributes to the growing FDI spillover literature, okay, by offering new result on obesity in China. Finally, our paper also relates to the literature of globalization and income, okay, this inequality between people with different levels of correlation. And lastly, I just want to highlight our policy implication, okay, because we find some adverse effect, but the policy implication of our result is certainly not anti-liberalization, as the globalization has larger beneficial effects not examined in our study on individual, such as more variety of choose and maybe competition effect, maybe the complex price effect. Okay, we cannot calculate such kind of effect. Rather, our result highlight the important rules for healthy and unhealthy food information and the government advisory regulations of food consumption, which are usually weak in China and other developing countries in general. So improvement in such information can alleviate the adverse, opposite effects. Okay, so I I stop here. Okay.
Thank you, Faqin, for a very interesting presentation. We probably have time for 1 or 2 questions. If anyone has any questions.
Yes, can I?
Simon Chang.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess my comment is mostly about these quantity versus, I don't know, maybe quality in terms of the measurement of fast food restaurant. So you don't get you don't get overweight or obese in just overnight just by eating one Big Mac, right? You have to keep eating a lot, right? So I guess instead of measuring how many McDonald's or KFC in a certain area, you probably have information about how long that each McDonald's has been in there operating. So I would imagine, if you have a McDonald's sitting there operating for many years, the effect will accumulate over time. So if you can take that into consideration, that might help you to find more different aspects of the results.
Accumulation, okay. I will consider it. Thank you, Simon.
I think Sean Chen has the final question. Thank you, Sean.
Michael. Yes, Faqin, I have one question. Do you know, can you try to what extent the current results you find actually could be driven by the heterogeneous time trend between urban and the rural area? My concern is, here you control for the time year fixed effect, but within you control for the city year fixed effect. But the thing is, within the city, there's still a big gap between urban and rural. And as I said, so most of these fast food restaurants concentrated in the urban area. But over the past 30 years, there's a huge income gap and a huge difference in the economic growth rate between rural and urban. That means even without the exposure to fast food restaurants, the urban residents, there could be more people overweighted than the rural area.
Okay.
That means part of the effect could be actually driven by the urban year fixed effect. I think you can have a try with that.
Yeah, I will
rather than just the city year fixed effect.
Yeah, I will see it later when we just use the urban area and to see whether the result is still there. Okay.
Okay, so thank you. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Faqin, and thank you everyone for joining today. Please join me in thanking Faqin Lin from China Agricultural University. Thanks very much and hope to see you in Perth sometime.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments and suggestions. Okay.
Thank you very much, Faqin.
Thank you. It's good. I learned
see you somewhere.
Comments and suggestions. Thank you for
Thanks for that interesting presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.